center, what what we do at this center is to generate evidences to engage with the relevant stakeholders to bring about the change that we want in education in Nigeria, both in early childhood and STEM, as well as robotics. And then we have our transformation center. What we do here essentially is, like the name connotes, like the name says, is transformation. So we transform schools in digital infrastructure and physical infrastructure to ensure that the learning space is not only conducive, but also inclusive, engaging, and very, very modern for both the students and the teachers to achieve effective learning. Because of time, I will just skip this part. Our work cut across all of these SDG goals, but we are very, very big on SDG 4, SDG 9, and SDG 17 because we believe in the power of partnership. We have speakers from different organizations here today that will be sharing insights um, in on the topic of today, and that's one of the ways that we partner as well. These are some of my achievements over the years. Because of time, I just want to keep it very, very brief. As I said earlier, we've led the delegation team to 11 countries. We've remodeled 10 schools, two different projects. We've been able to empower over 15,000 students in more than 13 states in Nigeria. We've been empowering educators. Even this number is, we have this year alone, this year alone, we've been able to empower close to 5,000. So this number is actually outdated. We've done more than 15,000 teachers as well through different platforms that we have as an organization. This year, we placed 6 students on full STEM scholarship in any Nigerian university. I can go on and on and on how we have made impact, but really, I just want to say thank you. The reason why we are here today is because we understand a lot of misconception around play. We understand that people run Montessori schools, people run crèche, people run toddler classes without understanding the essence and the power of play in critical thinking, in brain development, in cognitive development, and all of those things. And that's why we wanted to come together gather experts to do this today. So I'll just, because of time, thank you, Mia. Thank you, Gabriel. Thank you, Fola. And thank you, Olayemi, for sparing part of your time to share with us today. Our CEO would have loved to be here. She's currently airborne on her way to Singapore for the international final of WRO that starts on Tuesday. So that's why she's unable to join us today. But she sends her appreciation and she looks forward to an excellent conversation. Thank you so much, everyone, and have a beautiful evening.
Thank you so much, John, for that inspiring overview. So that leads us perfectly into our learning for today. We are truly privileged to have Mia Sundstrom deliver our keynote lecture. Mia is the Director for Play Transformation at the National Institute for Play. She is a sought-after speaker who masterfully translates the science of play into powerful, practical insights. Please join me in giving a warm welcome to Mia Sundstrom.
Thank you so much. And it is such a pleasure to be here with all of you. It's my morning, it's your evening, and so happy we could make this work. And I'm truly, truly inspired by the work of ArcLight's Foundation and of what all of you are doing to bring more play to children. It is one of the most important things that we can all do. So, just a huge thank you and a ton of respect and admiration for the work that all of you do. And I am here to just share a little bit more about some of the science of play and then also some practical applications for how we can apply more play to our systems and structures for children. And, we're going to fly through this information. So you're always welcome to post questions in the chat as we go. And I am actually going to share my screen if that is all right. All right, here we go. So, this is all about how play can unlock human potential. And this is a picture of me and my grandfather. My grandfather is Dr. Stuart Brown. He founded the National Institute for Play, which is the organization that I now run, that's also a nonprofit. And he is an amazing play scientist. He studied play for most of his life. And he started studying play because he was a psychiatrist. And he actually worked with mass murderers and homicidal individuals and found that many of them lacked childhood play. And so he was like, huh, there might be something to this whole play thing if people are becoming violent in older years when they don't play at all as children. So he really dedicated his entire career to better understanding the science of play. He did a lot of studying of play in the animal kingdom because play is pervasive across the entire animal kingdom. Even ants play. And so we can learn a lot about the ways that play can connect us and become a universal language and show signs that we can see from each other, even when we might not speak the same language. It also is shown in our ability to play with animals, whether that's dogs or even any animals, that we can create an emotional connection with them through play. So my grandpa spent a long time studying that, and then he and I have traveled the world and been so fortunate to speak about play in many different countries, in many different settings. And so our main mission is to help everyone who's doing the good work like you all are to really understand and then better integrate play as a tool for healthy socialization, for cognitive development, and for emotional regulation. So let's dive into something that's I think is actually a little bit interesting and tricky. And that is, what is play? And I think it's hard because there's not actually a great definition of play, but there's some attributes of it that help us to understand it a little better. So it's this dreamlike sort of alternate state of being where we're really taken out of the usual operations of time and space. We kind of lose track of time, as one might say. It's voluntary, so it's done for its own sake, not for any particular outcome, meaning that play is really intrinsically motivated. It's flexible and it's spontaneous. We're often adapting to changing conditions in the moment. It's fun. It evokes positive emotions like joy and awe. It's seemingly purposeless. So again, we're not doing it for this outcome, yet there are many positive outcomes of play. And then lastly, it's self-reinforcing, meaning when we play, we love it and it keeps us coming back for more. So we can further distinguish this a little bit as thinking of play the state. So that's what I just described here. But there's also play the trait. And this is sort of the cognitive disposition of optimism, of creative problem solving, of this can-do attitude and an ability to be resilient. That is the state, or excuse me, the trait of play. So what happens is when we engage in this state of play, this whatever that activity is that we're fully immersed in, it helps us to develop the trait of play. And that's where the real power lies. So that's just kind of a way to distinguish it and think a little bit more about play. All right, we're going to do a really brief overview of some of the neuroscience, just because sometimes when we understand what's happening in our brain when we play, it helps us to prioritize it a little bit more. So, first of all, play is activated. It's in our midbrain. So, our midbrain is our subcortex. It's the most ancient part of our brain. So, play is biologically hardwired into all of us from birth until death. Essentially, what that means is we don't have to learn play. We are born knowing how to play. And what we need to do is just make sure we allow ourselves to do that. It promotes neuroplasticity. So when we play, a protein called BDNF, which is brain-derived neurotrophic factor, secretes in our brain. And when that happens, new neural connections are formed. We're forming all these new pathways in our brain that weren't there before. This is essentially neuroplasticity, which is, in essence, our brain's ability to adapt and grow and reorganize and change over time. This is the foundation of learning. So that's the mechanism that our brain uses to learn. Our prefrontal cortex is like responsible for planning and decision making. And so play kind of relaxes our prefrontal cortex and helps other parts of the brain take over. So things like embarrassment or self-monitoring are replaced with spontaneity and, sensible risk taking. Our amygdala is our emotional processing center, essentially our stress response. When we play, our amygdala calms down, so our emotional defensiveness is significantly reduced, and we're a lot more open to new ideas, to learning, to all of these things because we feel calm. Our mirror neurons light up. So mirror neurons are what attune us to each other. So when we see someone else playing, we start to mirror their actions. This is the foundation of attunement, and attunement is what is the foundation of connection, which builds trust and then a sense of community and belonging down the road. Neurotransmitters are released, so our oxytocin and dopamine and endorphin, so those hormones that basically help make us feel good, are released when we play. And then the communication between our brain regions and our central nervous system increases, and our mind and body are totally attuned as we're enjoying the movement and the activity. And again, it doesn't have to be movement, but whatever we're fully immersed in that is playful. All right, so that's a little bit about what happens in our brain. Let's talk about the positive outcomes when those things happen in our brain. The big three: emotional regulation, cognitive growth, and social competence. Under those, we get this sense of well-being, authenticity, empathy, creativity, open-mindedness, engagement, resilience. You get the point. All really good things, all really important grounding factors for children to have as they grow up into the world and learn new things and experience all of the things that life has to offer. And what's interesting is it's still like this for adults too. So yes, we're talking about children for the purpose of this conversation, but I also want you all to think about yourselves, making sure that you also still play to reap some of these positive outcomes. And then let's look at the other side. This is how my grandpa got into play in the first place, thinking about some of the consequences of play deprivation. We would like to think of it in the same terms of proper sleep, feeding yourself the proper nutrients. Being playful is part of being human. So when we don't play, we're more likely to be susceptible to depression, to inflexibility, to a mood-driven behavior, pull impulse control, all of these things, right? So this is another reason why play is so fundamental. We don't need to think of it as a break from learning. It is learning, it is being human. Okay, so now kind of diving into the practical application and how we identify these things. So we like to say that everybody on this earth has a unique play personality, a play nature that is totally interesting and fundamental to who they are. Some people like art and music and creating new things. Some people like to joke, some people like to explore, direct, collect, storytell, whatever that is. So this is kind of fundamental to what we do and who we are. So we can identify children's play personalities and our own to help them play. All right, I'm going to go through one more slide here, and then we're going to continue on to the rest of the amazing panelists that you're going to hear. So this is what I like to call play portals. And these are ways to access play and ways that you can help children to access play. The first is through a playful mindset. So embracing curiosity over judgment and wonder over cynicism. The second is play time. So really just making space for play to happen, protecting some unstructured time in learning environments. The next is, of course, the environment. So you were talking about this earlier in the intro of making spaces that make it easier to access play. Then we think about playful activities. So things that we can do, again, in alignment with those play personalities that can activate play. Play rituals. So adding play into an everyday routine, whether that's a way of greeting each other or a way of saying goodbye. And then, of course, playful tasks. So making everyday mundane tasks, things like cleaning, things that we have to do, more playful, turning them into missions or challenges, adding laughter and spontaneity into them. And then lastly, spontaneity. So again, leaving space for spontaneous play. And I wanted to keep it brief here because there's so many other great experts on this call that I don't want to take up too much time. But I am so honored to be here with you all. And there are a lot more resources on the National Institute for Play website and on our Instagram. So you're also always welcome to reach out to me with more questions or to engage or to just partner. I'm always happy to do that. And again, thank you so much for having me today.
Wow, what an insightful and thought-provoking lecture. A huge thank you to Mia Sundstrom for laying such a rich foundation for our discussion. Thank you so much. The conversation continues now as we move into our panel discussion, where we will delve deeper into how we can apply these principles in diverse real-world settings. To guide this conversation, I am thrilled to introduce our distinguished panel of experts. First, we have Helen Oluwakemi Olayemi, Kolawole, an early childhood specialist, healthcare professional, and purpose discovery mentor. Helen is passionately known as the call teacher. From her experience as a teacher and school owner in Nigeria to her current work in the UK, she is deeply committed to building purpose-driven schools and raising value-centered educators. Helen, please, can we see your face? Say hello to everyone. Let's see away from you, please, Helen. We can't hear you. You're muted.
Hello, can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Hello, everyone. Top of the day to you. It's evening here. I don't know what time it is where you are, but top of the day to you. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you, Helen. Okay, so next on our list is Adekami Akindaye Omoumi, fondly known as Miss Fola. She is a passionate early years educator and advocate with over 5 years of experience. Through her platform, Miss Fola Nurture Hub, she collaborates with families and schools to promote high-quality early childhood development, rooted in joyful, hands-on, play-based learning. Please make welcome Miss Fola. Hi, Miss Fola. Please unmute your mic. Hi.
Hi, good evening. Thank you for having me. Good evening, good morning. So glad to be here. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, Fola. Okay, so, and finally, our third panelist is Gabriel Aibokarade. With over 2 decades of experience supporting children with additional needs, Gabriel is the program director at Play Smart Concepts. He specializes in using sensory motor play, drawing on training in Montessori education and play therapy to empower children with diverse learning needs to reach their full potential. Make welcome, Gabriel. Gabriel, let's see away from you, please.
Good evening, everyone. I would plead that my camera stays off. I'm not in a very convenient place to put on this camera.
Okay, that's fine. Welcome, Gabriel. Welcome.
Thank you very much.
A wonderful welcome to all our panelists. It's a pleasure to have you all here. Thank you so much for being part of this. So now it's my pleasure to introduce the person who will expertly guide this discussion, our programs director at Acolyte Foundation, in the person of Abisini Igo. Abisini, please take the floor. Thank you.
Okay, good evening, good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are. Thank you all for coming. And we're going to delve right into the panel session with our amazing panelists. Thank you so much, Miracle, and welcome again, everyone. As you've heard, my name is Igor Abisini, and I'll be moderating this exciting panel session on effective play strategies for early years. Today, we have incredible lineup of speakers, experienced educators, researchers, practitioners, who will help us unpack the misconceptions, practices, and impact of play in the early years. So let's delve right into it. So for this first section, we're going to focus on reframing play. We're going to try to understand why it is foundational and why many people still misunderstand it. So I'm going to start with you, Ms. Fola. Ms. Fola, the question is, many parents and policymakers still see play as a distraction from real learning. Why does this misconception persist, and how can educators correct it?
Okay, thank you so much. I would like to start with thank you, Mia, for that amazing talk. I really enjoyed it, and I love the fact that she started saying that there's not really any specific definition for play. So for that question, why there are misconceptions, I would say that we grew up as adults in environments and societies that see play as they see that, let me say, when they see They see you learning. They see learning as when a child is sitting and actually writing or memorizing something or probably reading. That's only when they see that play is taking place. So when they see a situation where your children are jumping, children are singing, they are seeing it as children are playing. So that's the reason why we have that misconception. We have the misconception because they feel like, okay, seriousness is only equals to you being work seriousness is equals to intelligence. Let me put it like that. So the society that I grew up, that most of us grew up, see only seriousness as intelligence. They are using seriousness to measure intelligence. So that's why we have that misconception. But actually they feel like play is something that I've seen even co-workers that are teachers but are not early educator. They will tell you, oh, what are you guys doing in your class? All you're doing is playing. Or you're not actually learning, you're just playing. So if that is coming from an educator, it's actually because we grew up that way. So now how can we as educators now, okay, erase this thing? One, we need to understand, we need to show evidence. I will start with that. You need to show your evidence. You need to let the parent know that when you show them evidence, like, okay, when this child is doing this thing, this child is actually learning this thing. When this child is doing this thing, this child. Now, I'll give you a scenario. I had a parent who was a colleague. I was talking about a parent who was a colleague. Now, let me share that story. She actually, there was a day she just sent me a message, a long message with a voice note, and she was teary, and she was like, I actually thought that all you guys do is play. She was actually having a mother time period with her daughter, and she realized that her daughter could actually, because anytime she comes to her class, we are always just actually maybe in the pretend play corner, or we are dancing, or we are building blocks, but she didn't see the need for all of this. She felt like, okay, you should be counting, these children should be writing. I'm talking about a child of about a year 8 months, and she was like, this girl can actually say her numbers. Sorry, your pencil. So sorry, I have a toddler here. I apologize. Sorry. Okay. Good. There you go. Okay. So apologies for that. I have a toddler here. And so she realized that even though we were playing, something was being gotten. So you have to show your evidence through practice. When they see the evidence, there's a mindset shift. So they understand that, okay, so it's not about my children are not just jumping, they are seeing the results. So another thing that I would say is that you need to communicate intentionally. Parents don't understand when you're telling them your child play. I tell parents, I have seen parents that will tell you, oh, my child is always playing, my child is always playing. And I'll be like, no, children are not just playing, they are learning something from play. So you have to communicate intentionally. If you're an educator and you want your parents to actually believe in this play concept, you want them to actually buy it, you have to communicate it to them. Okay, today, so like me, I don't know, if educators are here, I don't know how you communicate. If I'm writing a daily report for a child, I'm writing everything in detail. I can tell you, oh, today we had Play-Doh play. And I will specify that we're playing with Play-Doh because we want to build our fine motor skills. I'm explaining to them. So when you're showing evidence, the first thing you're showing evidence, you're communicating intentionally. You're not just leaving them to figure it out themselves. They don't understand what play is, so you have to communicate it. Now, another thing is that you have to share child's progress. Oh, when Tolu was playing today, she said she actually told her friend, let's say a child that could not say please, a child struggling with sharing, and the child needed something. So you could say, oh, when this child was playing with somebody today, she actually said please during play because she needed that thing. So that parent is understanding that, okay, if they're having this particular play, we're either teaching, maybe we're teaching turn taking or we're teaching resilience. So they need to understand that play is not just, they're not just playing it. They're not just doing something, jumping around. They're actually playing because they are learning. And I would, so not to take too much time, I will just end with this. Play is not the opposite of learning. That's what most people think. Play is not the opposite of learning. Play is the foundation of learning.
Thank you so much, Ms. Fola. So 2 key things from Ms. Fola: show evidence and understand that play is not the opposite of learning. It is the foundation of learning. Thank you so much. Gabriel, over to you. Now, could you help us differentiate between free play, guided play, and structured play? We hear these words every day, free play. So on some timetable, you see free play. On some timetable, you see guided play. So it's time for you to explain to us, what is the difference between these three forms of play? Gabriel?
Okay, I would actually put guided play and structured play together.
Together. Okay.
Because, yes, and free play is all about giving the children the freedom to explore, create, and learn at their own pace. It's unstructured, meaning that there's no set of rules or objectives. The children get to decide what they want to do. An example I will give, which is typical to our environment here, except we have a generation that didn't play. When you see children trying to cook food with sand, trying to make food with sand, and they are imitating what they've seen their mothers do in the kitchen. They choose the sand, they choose the location, they choose whatever they want to put in their pot, and they cook whatever they want to cook, and they then share among themselves. That is free play. Another example I will give of free play is a football. So let me talk about adult play before I go to this issue. Let me talk about structured play before I go to this issue of football, because it will help. Now, structured play is more organized. It's adult-led. It's often adult-led. The adults give the rules, they arrange it, they pattern it, and they control it at the end of the day. But so an example I will give to differentiate between structured and free play is a ball. You can have a ball and two teams will play a football match using the ball. The adult will give the rules, arrange the whole scenario of the football match, set out the team. But that same ball, a group of children can set up 5 teams, and they will play the ball randomly the way they want to. They'll choose the rules without being directed in any way. And if we played football as children, you know that there's a game where you have somebody in the middle and you pass the ball across to one another for the person in the middle to get the ball. That is, you decide how you want to do it. It's still the same football, but this particular time around, the children are defining the rules on how they want to play. Now, for the differences, the adults are the ones in control of the structured play. The children are the ones in control of the free play. They decide how they want to do it. They plan the activities themselves and they set it up by themselves. Now, the advantage for free play is that it allows the children to take ownership of whatever they are doing. They are able to problem solve. They are able to explore different things, whether it's texture, whether it's taste, whether it's social interaction. They explore it and do it on their own. Another example I will give is climbing trees. When children climb trees on their own, they are able to estimate the distance. They are able to plan their posture. They are able to organize themselves. They are able to determine whether it's safe to go higher or stay at a particular level. Awareness of safety. So there are different skills that are embedded when children decide to play freely on their own. A lot of independence too is built when children play on their own. Now, when it is adult driven, the adults are the ones in control. They are the ones who will determine how far the children want to go. They are the ones who will determine the rules of the game. So it's as organizing as it might seem, a lot of times it can be limiting. I don't know if I'm making sense. So
yes, you are.
These are the two major differences between free play and structured play. And they both have their impact and importance in how the children develop.
Yeah, I see that. I see that they both have their own unique value that they bring to the learning that the children have. Even when adults control or not control, there is still a unique value proposition in both types of play. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Gabriel. Helen, your turn. The called teacher. Now, because you're called, you're going to share some practical examples of play from the African context. So I've been hearing, we grew up, you know, but it didn't limit us still. A lot of the things that are being said, we did them. We cooked okra soup with one red flour, I think. I don't know if anybody else did, but I did. Some orange flour that made it draw on something. And then we'll then put sand and water together to make the gari. We did that. So you're a school owner as well. Can you share some practical examples of play activities from an African context and help us understand how these support children's development?
Oh, thank you for having me. I want to say thank you to Maya. Thank you to Mrs. Omowumi. Thank you to Gabriel. I have jotted down some points as you were all speaking. And this topic of play, whenever I hear play, it makes my heart leap for joy. Because I grew up with my grandmother as a child when I was young in my formative years. And we all know that the formative years of a child will determine, or let me say, will determine the larger percentage of the life of a child, from your display of strength to competence in your chosen career, to courage, to risk-taking, to emotional stability, from there to building social relationship. I enjoyed play as a child. So whenever I hear this topic, play, when I saw the acolyte, when I saw your invite, my heart leaped for joy. So thank you so much for bringing me up to talk about this topic. And I'm just going to start with the definition. Like Maya said, there is no specific definition to play. But I would like to say that when it comes to cultural and indigenous play activities that children engage in, I would just like to pick some of the points that Maya mentioned, that those things that children do intrinsically without being guided, without being directed, without any structured environment, that reflect the value, that reflect the belief, that reflect everything that speaks about a group of people. When you see children engaging in storytelling, engaging in play, engaging in different activities that are telling the traditional value, that are showing the everyday life of a community, that are showing the beliefs of a group of people and their social practices, that is cultural and indigenous play. And when I got to the United Kingdom from Nigeria, I saw that almost all of our cultural play is also their cultural play here, though with different names. Like we have the ayo being called something else here. We have the tente called different name here. We have I'm calling them in the indigenous name because I'm talking about indigenous and cultural play. We have the sue, And I'm calling those names because I am from the Yoruba speaking part of Nigeria. So like Maya said, all over the world, children will express play naturally. So anywhere you get to in the world, you will see children displaying different cultural play, and you will see some transfer of one culture to another. So play is not restricted to a particular group of people or a particular tribe or a particular region, nor a particular state, nor a particular continent. It is a natural gift of nature. And I'm just going to mention a few indigenous African play activities that we have. And I have mentioned that because I am from the Yoruba speaking part of Nigeria, I'll be mentioning them in Yoruba language. We have Ayo, we have Tenten, we have Suwe, we have Boju Boju, we have rope skipping, we have local rhymes and dancing games, we have cultural dance, we have pretend cooking, we have market pretend play, we have stone play, we have sack race, we have tire racing, we have sand play. And I'm going to try to share my screen with you so that you get to see some of this play. Can you see my screen now? Admin?
It's still sharing.
Can everybody see my screen?
Coming up. Yes, we can see it now.
All right. Can you see? This game is played here in the United Kingdom, just like I said. It is not limited, like Maya said, it is a global language. And children will blossom. They will be happy. They will learn. They will be creative. They will express their inner gift and talent when they play. If you look at the screen, you will see how happy these children are, because I am talking about indigenous African games and play activities. That is why you can see the picture is just streamlined to those children being from the African origin. So I'm going to move to the next picture. This is a family role play. Can you see? I played this role so much as a child, and it is helping me to cope, to manage my life as a mother, as a wife, and as a business woman, and as a professional. I love all that I do, and I cannot let one disturb the other. When I am overwhelmed as a mother and the other roles that I have to play, when I remember the role play that I had when I would play with my friends, pretending to be the mother, I derive strength from those play. You can see the next one is the Ayo, the stone play, and the next one is the Suwe. The first day I got into the school in the United Kingdom to register my children, this was the first picture I saw. This was the first thing I saw. When I entered the school, I was like, oh my God, we have this game in Nigeria. And my children jumped at it and they started hopping. 1, 2, 3, and they were counting. And we have the sand play, and we look at the tire racing, and we have etc. and etc. So permit me to mention the importance of this indigenous cultural play to children. When you allow children to participate in this cultural and indigenous game, you will be building their sense of identity and belonging. Oh my goodness. You cannot take that from a child. When a child is allowed to express his or her natural environment, you are building the sense of identity of that child. We have children, we have adults struggling to even find themselves. And that can be traced to the fact that they were not allowed to play, to interact, to have fun with their environment. So when you expose children to indigenous cultural games, you will be building sense of identity, self-discovery, self-awareness, and belonging to a community in that child. And another thing that we'll be doing is you'll be helping the child to understand his or her roots and cultural heritage. When you understand your cultural heritage, when you appreciate your cultural heritage, you will appreciate the cultural heritage and the cultural roots of another country, of another person. If you can respect yours, you will value someone else's. So it helps us to build a good sense of cultural roots and cultural heritage. It helps to strengthen the social skills of children. We see adults struggling at work today. They cannot function well. They cannot work in a team because they were not allowed to play. So when you expose children to indigenous and cultural play, they will be able to work in a team. And it will help them to be critical thinker. They'll be able to have physical strength and agility. It will teach them emotional control. When you participate in all of the play I have mentioned earlier, it enhances creativity and imagination. Oh my God, children will be more creative if only we will allow children to get into the nature and play. You don't need to teach them, you don't need to instruct them, they will just blossom. Their imaginative will blossom, and it builds communication skills. As you see all of the plays that I showed earlier, it helps us to communicate. When they are playing and they are conversing, it promotes confidence. It promotes the spirit of resilience. A child will be able to take risks. I don't want to take all of the time, so let me just stop here. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. You went on and on and on and on. Thank you so much, Helen. Key points. Indigenous play is exactly that. It doesn't matter whether you're in North America, United Kingdom, Nigeria. It is indigenous to the location that you are, but play is play. It is your universal language. All right. So yes, thank you all for your insights. Now we're going to move on to the teacher's role in ensuring that play is effective. We're going to examine how teachers design, guide, and maximize play in learning environments. Gabriel, we're kicking off with you. The question is, what are the key characteristics of an effective play-based learning approach in the early childhood setting? I repeat, what are key characteristics of an effective play-based learning in the early childhood setting?
Oh, okay. Before I go into that, I just want to quickly mention to whatever the other speakers have said. I was happy when Maya talked about the impact of play in the brain. Now, we are basically input, process, output. We take information via our environment, from our environment via our senses. Our brain interprets and gives a feedback. Now, play allows the individual feed the brain with sensations or stimulus. And we now interpret and prioritize on what we need to be focused on without really being stressed. Because when we play, the brain secretes a feel-good hormone. So just to add a little bit to the science of play, so that we lay a foundation that it is not just because most of the time we talk about play in our environment, people want to just see players from the context of fun. It's more than just fun. So taking it to your question, for it to be effective in a learning environment, it first of all has to be child-centered. We focus on the children's interest, the children's needs, and the children's curiosity, which means that educators need to understand development. Now, we may have children who are chronologically 5, but their developmental age may be 3. Now, that's even too close. Let me say 7 and 3. Now, the way a 7-year-old will play is not the same way a 3-year-old will play developmentally. So it's critical that we understand development. And when we understand development, we can focus on interest, needs, and curiosity. Secondly, it has to be hands-on. The children need to touch, children need to move, children need to reflect. So we have different kinds of play, but the very first of the occupational therapist will say the very first occupation of the child is to play. And children learn first to move their large muscles before they now begin to engage their smaller muscles. So you walk from God to fine. Now, it has to be hands-on. They feel, they touch, they taste, they move. Because those are signals that the brain will need to organize, help them organize themselves in the environment. It has to be flexible and adaptable. And this is where I believe it should be culturally friendly. A lot of times in our environment, we want to make play look elitist by getting synthetic fonts of stuff, swings and slides. Some of us who grew up in certain environments, we did not have synthetic fonts of. We had sand. We rolled tires. We climbed trees. We challenged our bodies and our minds. So it has to be flexible. But flexible, it has to be adaptable. And it has to be safe. I should have mentioned safe from the beginning. It has to be safe. So when you look at it from it being developmentally appropriate, the kind of play you would want, you will not put, giving a typical instance, you cannot put, it would be dangerous to put 8-year-old on a trampoline to jump with 4-year-old. Because the older ones will move faster and harder, and they can hurt the younger ones. So safety is a major part of it. We must emphasize also on process over product. Now, the fact that the children start, followed through, and finish is a critical part of play. A typical example I will give now is when they create things. A lot of times adults are interested in being perfect, things being perfect and organized, rather than observing whether the child started, the child organized it, and the child finished it. I don't know if I'm making sense here, or if I'm there's something about process, focusing on process and sequencing, particularly I speak from the context of working with children who may have difficulties with attention, who would always want to get to the end of the task without going through the process. For such children, you need to focus. You're not focused on the end. You're focused on the children's ability to start, follow through, and finish. It has to be engaging. The teachers should see themselves as facilitators and not. Can you hear me?
Yes,
can you
we
hear
can.
Me?
Yes, we can. We can.
Oh, sorry. Oh no.
Do we come back to you? We can come back to you, Mr. Gabriel.
Okay. Can you? So, shoot.
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, you can hear me. Okay.
Yeah.
So teachers must see themselves as facilitators in classrooms. So they should be able to know when to allow the children play freely and when they should be the ones who direct the play.
then they should also be able to assess. They should also be able to assess their play.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much, Mr. Gabriel. Thank you so much for your contribution. Okay, so key points here for key characteristics. Play should be child-centered, should be hands-on, should be safe. Teachers are to facilitate the play as well. Okay, so that's key points that I got from there. Those are key characteristics in a setting, in an actual setting. Okay, so Ms. Fola, over to you. Tell us how teachers can intentionally design play experiences. I think the key word here is intentionally. How can we intentionally design play experiences that are both fun yet educational?
Okay, thank you so much. So I would start with the fact that I always say something. Play is powerful when it is intentional. It is really powerful. Now imagine that our parents understood the skills we were getting when we play all those things that Miss Ellen mentioned, when we're doing boji boji, when we're playing like parents. Our parents saw it that we were just wasting our time, but they didn't understand. I was telling somebody that, do you know that 10-10 was actually teaching us counting in tens, 10, 20. We didn't know. We just assumed that we were playing. And I always tell somebody I never struggled with writing because I was either picking beans or probably plucking away do. Now, so if our parents understood how how powerful play was, they would, I bet you that they would have been more intentional. In fact, they would tell us all the time, go and play. So children can play anytime. They can play anytime. They can play anywhere. But it becomes more powerful when a teacher now decides to plan clear goals. When a teacher has clear goals in mind. Okay, I'm setting up these play areas because I want these children to learn this particular thing. Now let's assume that, for instance, I want to teach the children counting. Now I don't just hand them worksheets and said, okay, take, because the worksheet has pictures, start counting. No, I can decide to say, okay, I want to set up a market, or I want to set up a market where we're going to buy and sell bottles. Let me put that for instance. I'm going to set up a market a market where we're going to be selling just bottles. Now, the children, you can imagine their excitement, how they will be feeling at that time. Oh, we're going to have a market day today and we're going to be selling bottles. You are going to be buying. You're going to be the one selling. Now, they don't understand. They're assuming, okay, our teacher wants us to play. But my intention is that I want them to learn counting. So the children are having fun, but they're also practicing counting. And now it's not even just counting, it's to extend to turn taking, because they will be taking turns. Okay, it's my turn to buy. Now they're learning something else. It's to extend to communication. I want to buy 10 bottles. They are communicating with their peers. So if play is more intentional, it is powerful. So now intentional play, I would just say it is a play that the teacher is involved. Now, it's not like you're involved directing all the move. No, that is not what you're doing. You're not there to direct all the move. You're not here to say, okay, take, buy 10 bottles, you take, hold the money. No, you're not directing all the move. You're just setting the area. You're setting the stage. You're providing the materials that they need, because why? You understand that you have a clear goal. You have something that you want to achieve. You are asking open-ended question when you're doing this. Okay, what if he buys now? You can even also move to multiplication, to subtraction. Okay, you have 20 bottles here. If you sell 10 bottles, how many will you have left? Now you're asking questions, which is making the child begin to reason. They want to solve a problem, and it makes it, or you're looking at, okay, how can we get more bottles? They are thinking. They might give you weird answers. They might not be in the mood, but at that time, they are enjoying. Now, it's not a win-win situation. The children are having fun because you have designed the play to be intentional. You are now also gaining what you want. Now, also, it's about, if you want to be intentional about your play, you have to also put in mind, you have to bear in mind the observation process. Now, you're not just leaving the children to play. You want to watch how they are using the material. You're watching how are they using this material. That will tell you what they already understand and what you have to build on. You're observing. So fun and learning can come together when the teacher plans with purpose, when the teacher is intentional, but you're still leaving the room for children's creativity. You're not taking away their creativity. They are playing, but you're intentional about it. So because I feel like when children, I know it's not like I feel like when children feel like they are in charge, when they feel like, okay, I'm in charge, you're letting them have the stage. They feel like they're in charge. It makes the learning process more deep. Like they never forget. There are some experiences that we can never forget. So that's how it is when a teacher is more intentional with play. It makes the learning process more deeper because they are feeling like, oh, our teacher is giving us this free hand to play today. But they are not understanding the fact that you have actually designed that because you're an intentional teacher. Thank you. I'll stop there.
Thank you so much. I took this down. Play is powerful when it is intentional. Absolutely apt. All right, so over to you, Helen. Helen, in your experience, what are some common mistakes teachers make when incorporating play into learning? Just tell us in 2 minutes or less, from your experience, what some common mistakes are that teachers make when they incorporate play into learning.
Thank you for telling me to make it 2 minutes. Yeah, so like Ms. Omomi just said now, when teachers are trying to incorporate play into learning, they tend to take charge. The children are supposed to be in charge. The play is for the children and not the adults. So it must be child-centered. The focus must be on the child. And we must also not overstructure, even if it is a structured play. We shouldn't overstructure. We should give allowance for flexibility. And I see teachers also making the mistake of not understanding what play is. They think when you ask a child to play, like other speakers rightly said, they think you're just using it as a medium of distracting the child from disturbing. No, teachers must understand what play is. That is one mistake that they make. And they should be able to play. When I am doing any interview, recruiting, maybe for care or for education for classroom teachers, I would ask you, how playful are you? So if a teacher is saying, I don't like to play, then you can't work with children. Then I see teachers make the mistake of ignoring children when they are playing. Children are to be observed when they're playing. From there, you can know what to work on with a child. You can share the progress of the child with the parents. And at times, they assume that it is only synthetic material, only those materials that are looking fanciful, that are structured, that are designed in a certain way that children should use to play. No, nature is the biggest, largest, most efficient play apparatus of the child. So the mistake that teachers are making, that until I see synthetic apparatus, my children will not be able to play. We must change our mindset from that to playing, allow children to play in the nature. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So yes, I see that some people, yes, wait for Lego blocks. They write a list every term. Oh, director, we want Lego blocks. We're out of Play-Doh. We're out of this. So yes, you're correct. Also, you said play is for the children and not the adults. Children are to be observed and not ignored. Gabriel, would you like to add to this section, please? Would you like to add your thoughts to this? Mistakes,
Yes.
common mistakes that teachers make?
Okay, common mistakes teachers make. Like I think
When incorporating play into learning.
when incorporating play into learning is
Yeah.
trying to structure it a lot of times, trying to control it. Now, largely because because I work with children who have developmental needs, observation is key, because there are certain things you will not see when the child is sitting on a table and a chair, focus on a board, that you will see when the child is on the playground running or sitting down quietly trying to get other children to be involved in what he or she is doing. So I think the challenge for educators most times, particularly class teachers, is rigidity. And that's why I spoke about development. If there's an understanding of development, that mindset of rigidity will change, because we largely do not. Our educational system evolved from touching your ear, go to school. So we see development and learning, you're laughing, development and learning largely from the context of physical development. But development is beyond physical development. We have seen children who may have difficulties with motor coordination, but in terms of cognitive ability, they are sound. So observation is key. Observation is critical. When we observe, we will know exactly how to engage with the.
Thank you so much. To wrap up this section, I'm going to give each of you a minute or less to answer this question. One thought only. Okay? Tell us how schools and communities can collaborate to make early learning spaces more play-friendly. Tell us what you think. This is an opinion question, okay? I'm sure you've thought about it, that if I could do this, or if I could reach out to the local government, or if I could, So we want to hear your thoughts. We'll start with Gabriel, and then Ms. Fola, and then Helen.
Okay. So I think in our government quarters, there are already policies in place to promote play areas. Because if you look at the government schools, they all have space for play. But they don't, there's a lack of the understanding of play. So I think where we all need to start from, first of all, is understanding, appreciating the value of play. Because that will now guide us in determining what we'll do based on the environment. So baseline, first of all, we need to have a robust understanding on the value of play. I think that's where we all need to start from. We have government schools with big playground, big space for playground that's not really being used effectively. Then we have private schools who do not even have playgrounds. Those are just my thoughts. I don't know if I've made sense, but that's where I believe we all need to just start from. First of all, let's understand the value of play. And that will inform our policies as we progress.
We'll come back to policies. We'll end with policies. All right, Ms. Fola.
Okay, so for me, just like as Mr. Gerber has said, I would say there has to be, I'll mention two things. The first one will be shared understanding. There has to be a shared understanding. Like they have to understand that school leaders, teachers, parents, even the community members, they need to understand that having or running a play-based learning or having a play-based environment is not luxury. Majority of the people feel like, okay, for the children to actually go through this play-based learning that people are talking about, it has to be expensive. They have to have a big play area, bring in some expensive items. No, it's play. Play is not luxury. It's how the children learn best. If they understand that play is, there's one thing that I can never forget when somebody said play is the primary work of a child. If parents, everybody can come to this understanding, there's like a mindset shift and it makes the collaboration easier. And another thing that I will talk about is partnership. Schools can partner with even local artisans. I remember a time we wanted to give our children, because I work on the island and we know there are some things, we were doing transportation. And I remember we went out to go and look for keke marua We didn't get Keke Marua. We saw Korope. And the children, I don't know if we know Korope here. The children were excited because they had never, most of them have, having to be in a Korope, having to be. So if we partner with different people, you need this, you're going out. I wanted to plant something different for my learners aside beans. We've always been planting beans. I went to a florist shop and he gave me the seeds for free. He gave me some, I think he gave me a scent leaf. He said it's a curry leaf seed. He gave me for free. That was the first time even I myself was seeing it. And we planted it and it's growing. And I'm excited. The children are happy. They're seeing it. So it's partnership. You're partnering. You want to give the children a proper place, and you're partnering with different people just to make these children have this experience.
Okay.
So I'll stop.
Thank you so much, Helen. On collaboration?
Collaboration. I will start with us as educators. Let's tell our stories. Let's tell the progress that play is showing or giving or enhancing in the life of a child. If we can put it out there, if you've ever gone to my page to read my post, there is a post on my page that speaks of how I played and played and played, and I was bedwetting. And in the dream, I was talking to my friend that let's go to the bathroom. Let's go. And when I woke up, oh my God, I said it rained. And I put the post there. But one thing those experiences cannot take away from me is my courage. It's my confidence. It's my boldness. It's my ability to take risks. So if we put out our stories, the progress we are making, people will buy into the knowledge. Like Mr. Gabriel said, people don't even have the understanding. And Mr. Omomi said the same thing. Majority of people, they don't understand what play is. So the more we put our stories and keep giving them value, keep educating them, schools owners will gain value, parents will gain value, children will be happy, teachers will experience less stress because I just tell you, when you restrict children to 4 walls of the classroom, it is tedious and demanding on the teachers, and it will limit the children's ability to be creative. So when we put out our stories and the reasons why they should play, parents and school owners and the government will gain values, the children will be happy, teachers will face less stress, and let's make use of the nature. Let's keep on preaching how important the nature is. Miss Maya spoke about the brain, the neuroplasticity, and the neural pathway development when children play. I am telling you, when parents can grasp that understanding, when they know how important play is, all children will be playing. Let me stop here.
All right, thank you so much. So today we've gone from collaboration to common mistakes teachers make. We've talked about the learning environment, the impact of play. We've shared insights on even the science of play. Helen can't stop talking about nature. Every time she's talked about nature. We've talked about how easy it can be to get these resources. They're everywhere around you. It's in the air you breathe. It's in the sunlight. It's in the air that is, hitting your skin. It's not until you buy the Lego blocks, even though they're good, they have their uses. We've talked about teachers' design, how they guide play. So we're going to end with this. Each of you have 2 minutes for this question. Tell us what policies or parental engagement strategies that you think can help reposition play as an essential tool for learning. I know you've said all the tell your stories and all of that, but think about it critically. If you had to tell this message in one sentence or in one paragraph to parents, a group of parents, to say, you know what, you're all in the room. This is what we think can help you understand this better. What would you be? What policy would you want them to come up with to reposition play as an essential tool to lifelong learning? We'll start with Ms. Fola, and then Gabriel, and then Helen. We'll do a sandwich with the man in the middle, okay? So Ms. Fola, over to you.
Okay, so if I have a room filled with parents, even school leaders, what I would say is, please reduce the pressure for early academic performance. That's one thing I would always say, reduce the pressure. Imagine when schools, sometimes it's not even the school, when parents, schools are being pushed, you're telling a 3-year-old, I want you to start reading, I want my child to start reading quickly, I want my child to start writing. Now it shifts the focus. It shifts the focus. Like there's not pressure. You want to play when your parents want you to write. You want to play when your parents want you to be reading. So it shifts the focus. So I would say it every time. I would say it every time. Let us, if there can be a policy to reduce, like not just giving the policy, but following it. Because I know even if you look at the Lagos State policy, it's not so rigid. But I think there are a lot of pressures from parents. Oh, my friend's child can count 1 to 100. My child is still doing 1 to 10. What are you trying to tell me? We've seen this a lot of times as teachers in the classroom. We explain it every day. We explain it a lot of times that children, we have to just follow the process. So if we can have a child-centered policy that gives schools the freedom to let the children learn in their developmentally appropriate ways. Let me put it like that. So a policy that will make them learn in their developmentally appropriate ways. I think that is what I will always say every time.
Thank you so much. For Gabriel, yes, your turn.
Okay, so for those of us who live in Lagos, we know about the issue of Lagos focusing on building compliance. Now, I relate play to building. The occupational therapist will say the first occupation of a child is to play. The speech and language therapist will say the first language of a child is to play. So play is foundational. So policy makers, those who allow school operate, should insist that play is embedded in the curriculum for the learning environment. So, and when I say embedded, doesn't just mean that you go there and look whether they have a playground. It should be, how do these children play? When do they play? How long do they play? That's what I just feel regarding policy. It should be foundational. It should be embedded in the structure of the school as a foundational tool for learning.
All right. Thank you so much. Helen?
Thank you. Gabriel said children should be allowed to play and our policies should enforce it. And Omowumi said children should be allowed to learn according to their developmental stage. If we marry these two together and we now add that enforcement must focus on school owners, I'm in the game. School owners must obey and respect these 2 points that they mentioned. We'll have a very fantastic educational system. If the government will enforce that, play is ensured in schools, the time they play, how they play, where they play, like Mr. Gabriel said, and they are also enforcing that children must learn, not at 1 year old. You will tell me, my child is not writing. If we can marry these two together, we'll have a better educational system. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Helen. Before I round up, I just want to tell the audience that now is a good time to post your questions in the chat box. If you have questions, please post your questions in the chat box. And with that, we have come to the end of this panel session. I want to thank the amazing panelists so many insights. My notepad is so full. I'm like, oh my God, where am I going to start from? You know, my notepad is so full, and I hope everybody's pad is full. I want to be a teacher so bad to say, Choma, so what were we saying about what did Helen say about this? Or what did Gabriel, and like it's itching, you know, I'm just itching to be a teacher, to say, Adebukala, did you listen? What did I want to quote something? I say, what did they say? Who said it? But I'm going to leave the audience to put out their questions, and then Miss Miracle will take over and help the panelists read out the questions. Also, let us know if you want to direct the question to a particular panelist, so that will be easy for us to know who you want to address that question. So I'm going to give us 1 minute to put our questions. Okay, Amara has a question. Amara, who do you want to direct this question to? Do you have someone in particular you want to direct the question to? She wants practical examples. Amara's question. Over to you, Miss Miracle. So, okay, she said any of them. So Miracle will help read out the question and direct it to a panelist. We'll take about 4 or 5 questions, and then Miracle will give the vote of thanks. Thank you guys so much. Miracle, over to you.
Okay, so I will just quickly talk about the question that Amara asked. What type of play can a child age 1, 2, 3 play? Well, there are a lot of play that these children can play. If you were following, you would see that Helen listed a lot of play that we can still actually do right now. Those play are not limited. So you can't limit a child to say this is the type of play you should play. The most important thing that you want to look at is is it safe? Once the play is safe enough, I believe that it's good to go. But if you want practical example, I can say water play. So the child is having water play. They can just play for preschoolers, okay? So they can just pouring water from one cup or one container to the other. That's play. You can put balls into the water and they are scooping with spoon. You can put rubber band and they are picking with a broom. So you can do sand play. They are building. You can wet the sand. They are playing. When they are feeling the texture, that's playing. You can play with rice. You can play with their measuring. You can do play-doh. A lot of play that you can play. So sorry. So there are a lot of things that you can do. Spoons, transferring, even dancing, that's playing. Talking, reading, story time. You're doing story time, you're making it in a form and dramatic way. You're trying to do a role play. Oh, do you want to be mommy? Can you carry this clothes? The children are building social, they are building communication skills. So there are diverse play that these children can play. There are no limits. You can create resources by yourself. It doesn't have to be something expensive. You can use your bottle cover and a can. They are opening the can. They are putting something inside. So there are different type of play that they can. I can go on and on and on and on and on. So I hope I've been able to answer your question to some extent. I'm trying to not talk too much.
Okay, can I answer this question about writing?
Oh, okay. I wanted to call your name. So, okay, first.
Thank you very much. So,
thank you, Mr. Gabriel. Okay.
So first of all, for a child to write, I will typically consider 3 things: the mechanics of the writing. So, are the skills, are the fine motor skills available for writing? Because it is a fine motor task. The second thing I will consider is the child emotionally interested in writing? Then the third thing I will consider is the tool that I'm using to teach the child writing, is it appropriate? Now, for when I consider these 3 things, I need to start from very simple to complex activities. Now, for the mechanics of the writing, the child needs to build fine motor control. We can play with sand. We can play with pegs. We can play with corks. to build the connection, then we can have games. I know the person who sent this question. So when I say something now, you understand. Table soccer can strengthen fine motor skills. We played table soccer in those days with corks of bottles. Interestingly, when you play that game, you are building the strength for a fine motor to be able to hold the pencil. But when we introduce the right thing, we should use the right tools so that we can encourage the interest for writing. Now, when we use the wrong tools, so I see children, particularly in early years, being introduced to writing tools that they are not ready for. So writing becomes a chore for them. So we must consider the tools we are using to teach the writing. We must consider whether the mechanics are strong enough for the writing when we are focusing on writing, so that we encourage the attitude towards writing.
Thank you so much, Mr. Gabriel. I'll read the question Solomon asked. He said, please, what are the specific play techniques for a child who is not writing when her mates are? And Mr. Gabriel gave us his answer. Thank you so much, Mr. Gabriel. So we'll take one more question. And yes, this is from Lillian. She asks, how do you help a child to learn free play, age 5? He doesn't play with his peers and doesn't understand free play, prefers structured play. Helen, please help us with this question.
Okay, I would like to say that, is the child having any special needs? Maybe you may have to look out for that. If the child does not like to play with others and the child does not like free play, is only structured play, you may have to look out for, probably maybe the child is speak with the school authority, don't go to the parent directly. And if you have therapists or you have consultants that can do that for you in the school, then since the child is still about the child, we must only encourage. We can't force the child to say, okay, you don't like free play, you have to do free play. You can give the child different options and allow the child to choose. If the child is tending towards just structured play alone, I will advise that you just encourage the child to always see another option of the type of play that you have available for the day. But we should start paying attention. The teacher and the parents, don't go to the parent directly, please. Talk to the school authority or talk to your head of school. They should start looking out for some reactions from the child that may be raising eyebrow. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Helen. Thank you for your response. We appreciate that. Thank you, everyone. Okay, so I'd want to end this way. Play is not the opposite of learning. It is the foundation of learning. And play becomes even more powerful when it is done intentionally. That brings us to the close of today's webinar. And on behalf of the entire team at Acolytes Foundation, I want to extend our deepest gratitude. We hope this session was a valuable one. Yes, I know it was, because I really learned a lot. Thank you, everyone. And a special thank you to our brilliant panelists, Helen, Ms. Fola, and Gabriel. Your diverse perspectives and practical wisdom were invaluable. Thank you so much. And to our master moderator, Abisini Eagle, thank you for guiding the conversation with such skill and insight. And of course, a profound thank you to our keynote speaker, Mia Sundstrom, for setting the tone with your powerful and inspiring lecture. Thank you, everyone, for joining. Thank you once again for being a part of this wonderful community, and enjoy the rest of your weekend. Goodbye.
Thank you for having me. Bye-bye.
Thank you.